Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I can't believe I am finally filming this video. It's been so long since I've been on YouTube and I've been so excited to film my birth experience video, and this is what this video is going to be all about. I will show you guys baby at the end of the video. But yeah, it's going to be quite a long video because I want to chat. I feel like it's been ages and I don't want to have to rush myself or any of that. I just want to speak comfortably and just get everything out. I don't want to have to like rush anything, so it's going to be a long video. Grab a snack, a cup of tea, get comfortable, put me on in the background whilst you're doing this, your laundry, your dishwasher, cooking. We're going to get straight started because I can ramble on forever. Where do we begin? I gave birth on the 20th of October 2023. So I was 40 days plus 2, so I was 2 days overdue. Let's start off with stretch and sweeps because I feel like that's a good place to start. So I had 2 successful stretch and sweeps, and in total kind of 3. So at 38 weeks I went into the hospital because of reduced movements. The midwife at the hospital attempted to give me a stretch and sweep, but she said my cervix wasn't fully dilated, so she couldn't really fully give me one. So I'm going to class that as a failure. But I had 2 successful. I had 2 successful stretch and sweeps. So the first one I had was at 39 weeks. If anyone's wondering what they're like, I wouldn't say that they're painful, but they can be uncomfortable. My first one wasn't even uncomfortable, to be honest, it was fine. My second one, which might have triggered the birth, was more uncomfortable. First one, I was like 1 centimetre dilated. I had it around 39 weeks, so like a week before I was due. I went home, had a nap, nothing happened. I had some like mild contractions and that was it. So that was my first one, and then I had my second one on my due date, so on the 18th of October, which is when I was due. I had one then, and I just asked the midwife, like, what do I need to do to make sure that this one is successful? And she said, stay upright. So I knew I couldn't nap. Like, I shouldn't nap anyway. So had my stretch and sweep on my due date. Afterwards, I went shopping because I was like kind of a bit sad that like I wasn't in labour, kind of just frustrated, even though like 40 plus 2 isn't that, like I wasn't overdue by a lot of days or anything like that. You just, when you get to the end of pregnancy, you just want it out. You just want to do everything and anything to get the baby out safely. So anyway, had the stretch and sweep on my due date. I went shopping, I bought this gorgeous coat from COS. I'll show you guys in a vlog at some point. I went shopping, bought this really nice coat from COS. I just wanted to stay active, stay upright, go for walks. Came back home, bounced on my ball. I was just on the ball for like hours on end. I eventually like put another seat in front of me and like used the seat to like stay upright. A lot of people tend to like labour on the toilet, but the thought of labouring on the toilet gives me the ick. I did everything to stay upright. So I had my stretch and sweep on the Wednesday on my due date. On the Thursday, I just made sure, again, to stay upright, to stay active, to go for walks, do everything to try and kickstart labour. I curb walked. And in the evening, I started to get what I think are contractions. So like they were consistent enough where I was tracking them on an app, but they weren't really painful, they weren't really leading anywhere. And I think it got to about 10 PM and they kind of just stopped. And I was like, oh, it's really frustrating. I was sad, I'm not gonna lie, I was sad at that point. I was like, oh, like, I wonder how much longer I'm gonna experience, I wonder how long I'm gonna be pregnant for. I don't know, I'd convinced myself that I wasn't going to go into labour. So Thursday evening, contractions stopped. Friday morning, so early hours of Friday, we had a storm in the UK. I think it was like called Storm Babette, something like that. We've had quite a few storms recently. We had a storm, and I woke up at like 4:30 in the morning. I was like talking to Jack. He was awake as well because the storm was really, really loud. I can't fall asleep because of the storm. And as I was saying that, I kind of got up. I think I was gonna go to the toilet or something. I got up, the minute I kind of like sat up on my bed, waters broke. And it wasn't like a huge gush, it was like a trickle, but it was definitely not a wee. It was definitely waters. Like it was almost like it was being held as I was sleeping, and the minute I like put myself up, gravity worked, and yeah. So waters broke, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, Jack, my waters are broke, oh my gosh. And I was like, I'm getting him to look at the bed, because it obviously had gone all over the bed. I called the maternity assessment. I was like, hi, I think my waters are broke. I've not been having contractions as of yet, but just want to call because they broke. And that's what they want you to do. If your waters break, you need to call them straight away. Called them, they said to call back within an hour. So I called back within an hour. It was about 5:30. Yeah, it was about 5:30. And within that hour, I went downstairs. Jack kept sleeping because he was, I don't know, he didn't really know what was going on. He went back to bed. I went downstairs and started cleaning because I just needed something to do. I needed to just focus. I felt like I was confident that I was going into labour soon. So I kind of was doing some panic nesting, I'm going to call it. So I started cleaning that. I cleaned the sink, cleaned my water bottle, did a little bit of tidying downstairs, and within that hour the contractions kicked in. Oh my gosh. I was scrubbing the sink and like stopping every like few minutes to like have the contraction. It was intense. Sorry, I'm talking with my hands a lot. I do apologise. I'm going to put them down. So they were intense, okay? So within the hour, so when an hour had gone past, I called maternity assessment and I was like, hi, my contractions have kicked in. I don't know how many minutes apart they were, but they were like less than 5 minutes apart. They were intense. And they were like, yeah, come in. We drove down to the hospital. It was about 6 a.m. when we arrived, and oh gosh, we got to the hospital, and honestly, even getting out of the car was intense. Getting out the car was intense, okay? It was horrific. We walked over, went into the maternity assessment, I think that's what it's called. I don't know what the official name is, I can't remember. We walked into there and I was like, the contractions had fully kicked in. I couldn't wee because they kept asking me to wee and I just couldn't do it. Like I could not wee. Anyway, they checked me and they said that I was 4 centimeters dilated, and I was like, oh yes. Because one of the worst things is going in and they're like, you're only like 1 centimeters or something, go back home, labour some more at home. Thankfully, I was 4 centimeters dilated. And side note, when I went for my second stretch and sweep on my due date, I was between 1 and 2 centimeters dilated. When I arrived at maternity assessment, I was 4 centimeters dilated. I was having very frequent contractions. They were intense, they were painful, they were everything that I thought that they would be, okay? And if you're wondering what a contraction feels like, it feels like, I mean, the closest thing that you can say is like, it's like a period cramp, but way more intense. And to the point where I felt like when I was having them, I couldn't see, I couldn't hear anything. It's like my body just shut down every time I had a contraction. Like I felt like I genuinely couldn't see it. I don't know if I was just shutting my eyes or my eyes were going blurry. But anyway, I was like, I just want pain relief. I need some sort of pain relief because this is just too much. Bearing in mind, I spoke to Jack, we had a little plan, and I said, I don't want to have any pain relief. I want to do it natural. I want to feel it all. Famous last words. But the only thing that I was happy to take was gas and air, because a lot of people spoke very highly about it. I'd never heard anyone speak negatively about it, like on any of the birth vlogs that I'd watched. I was like, yes, definitely going to have the gas and air. I definitely want that, but I don't want anything more than that. They gave me gas and air. I took one suck out of the gas and air and I threw up everywhere. Like, it was so bad, everywhere. And I was in shock. I was like, my backup, the only pain relief that I wanted isn't working for me and I don't know what I'm going to do. I kind of like panicked a little bit. I was like, oh, like what am I going to do? I could not do the gas and air. I don't know, it made me feel so awful, and I'd never heard anyone say that. I'd never heard anyone speak negatively about gas and air. I heard some people say that it does make you feel sick, but I'd never heard of anyone actually throwing up because of it. Yeah, I reacted so badly to that, so I was like, I'm not doing that. I think I took another little suck and I was like, absolutely not. It did not work for me. So then by that point, I was transferred over to the delivery suite, and we went to the room which had a bath, like a water bath thing. And it was lovely. Like, the hospital that I gave birth was lovely. Yeah, it was really, really good. So I went into that room. I was like, I just need pain relief. I was like, I need some sort of pain relief. If the gas net isn't going to work, I need something else. What's the next pain relief? And they were like, the next thing that we can give you is morphine. So I was like, give me the morphine. Give me it. And it was like a shot in your bum. They gave me the shot in my bum. They were like, it takes about 20 minutes. No, it takes... I think they said it takes 20 minutes to kick in. 20 minutes came and went. I could feel everything. Like, I was starting to question myself. I was starting to question my body. I was starting to question everything. I was like, why is it that I can literally feel everything, even though I've had this morphine? So I asked them for a top up. I don't think they gave me a top up because at that point I think they just ruled it out. They said to me that I could get into the bath, like into the water birthing bath, but my contractions were so intense that I couldn't even like lift my leg up. I was so exhausted as well. One thing that I haven't really heard people say is how exhausting contractions are. Like, for me, they were. Like, when I was speaking to Jack, you know, my partner, he was saying how, like, I was closing my eyes, I was like, looked like I was gonna drop on the floor, I was so like lethargic. The contractions were absolutely like kicking my pants. I was just so exhausted, and I was getting panicked because I was like, well, you know, gas and air hasn't worked, morphine so far hasn't worked, and I'm really, really exhausted, so I don't know how I'm actually going to physically be able to give birth if I'm this exhausted. I didn't even have energy to keep myself up, and for me, the most comfortable position was to stay up, like to be upright, like to stay physically stood up. But I just got to a point where if I was going to start, like, I was scared I was going to just fall on the floor because I was so exhausted. I was so exhausted from the contractions. Sitting down for me personally was way more painful. But I really had no choice because I didn't want to fall on the floor. Anyway, okay. So then I was transferred to another room, which was just like a normal birthing room with no water birth facilities, because I was like, I can't get into that, I'm too tired, I feel like I'm just gonna like drop, I'm like limp, like I just couldn't. So I was transferred to another room, and I can't remember what time it was, but I think maybe like around, I think by the time it was 12 p.m, like 12 in the afternoon, I was already 7 centimetres. So I arrived in the hospital, I was 6 centimetres. No, I arrived at the hospital at 6 a.m. Yeah, 6 a.m. And then by the time it was around 11, 12 in the afternoon, I was 7 centimetres. So I'd progressed quite well. At this point, the morphine definitely hadn't worked. I knew that for sure because it had been hours and I could still feel everything. And my only other option was epidural. I said I didn't want, I never thought I would want the epidural. Like, I just never thought that I did want it. But I was, you know, when I was speaking to the midwives, they kept telling me that an epidural might be good for you because it will mean that you can have a nap, that you can like stop feeling the pain, have a nap and just kind of recover, like feel a bit more energized, and then you can give birth. So I was like, yes. It wasn't even for the pain relief. I just wanted the epidural so that I could have a nap, because all I wanted to do was sleep. I was so tired. It was like, it was the exhaustion. I was so tired that I just wanted to nap. Anything just to have a quick hour nap, power nap, and then get back into giving birth. Anyway, when it got time to have the epidural, I had 2 consultants, and the first one was like, we actually advise you not to have an epidural right now because you have an infection. My temperature kept going up, so they knew that I had some sort of infection, and they were advising me not to get the epidural because it might just make that worse. Side note, throughout my whole pregnancy, right from the beginning of my pregnancy, I knew that I had group B strep. And it was something that I was really worried about. I'd never mentioned it on any of my videos or anything like that. I was really worried about it, not for my own sake, but for baby's sake, because if you've heard of group B strep, then you know if baby gets it, then you know the kind of implications it can have. It can be really serious for babies. A lot of people have it, but anybody can just have it. But it like stays dormant. It doesn't do anything if you have it, but obviously with a baby going through your birth canal, if they contract it, it can be really dangerous. So I was really, really scared about that. So the hospital gave me antibiotics throughout my whole birth to stop the group B strep, to stop it transferring onto the baby. Whilst I was giving birth, my temperature kept going up, so they knew I had an infection and they thought it was a group B strep. So they advised me not to get the epidural. I said, sod it, I want the epidural. Please can I have the epidural? Because I'm just so exhausted. I don't know how I'm gonna give birth if I'm this exhausted and in this much pain. So then the first consultant tried 2 times to give me the epidural. He couldn't do it correctly. The second consultant then tried to also do it. So I think the second consultant was maybe like his manager or something, or someone above him. He tried to give me it again, didn't work. It's funny because when people talk about getting an epidural, they talk about being literally numbed from the waist down. They can't walk, they can't move their feet, they literally don't feel anything. Within like an hour after having the epidural, I could wiggle my toes. I could feel absolutely everything. Like, it had done absolutely nothing. Like, I was waiting for that moment where it kicks in and I'm like, oh, yes, no. Could feel everything. Wiggle my toes. Even like the midwives were like asking me if I could wiggle my toes. I was like, yes, I can wiggle my toes. I can walk, I can get up and walk if you want me to. And they were like, oh gosh. Yeah. So the epidural at this point had also failed. And I just didn't prepare myself for that. I never thought that pain relief wasn't going to work. That didn't even cross my mind at this point. That didn't even cross my mind. I thought I was going to have the epidural, I was going to be fine, I was going to have a nap. So I got the epidural around 12 in the afternoon, waited an hour till 1 PM, still hadn't worked. So by the time then, nothing had worked. I was going to have a natural birth, whether I wanted it or not. And also by this time, I was having these urges to push. So I was having a contraction, and then at the end of the contraction, it was as if my stomach was lifting and pushing down. And I wasn't doing it. Like, I wasn't pushing. My stomach was just pushing for me. And it was it was the wildest, weirdest sensation ever. The only thing that I can relate it to is when you need to throw up and you have that urge to throw up and you can't help the urge. That was like that urge. It was the same feeling but in my stomach. So yeah, so my stomach was lifting and then pushing down, lifting and then pushing down at the end of every contraction, and I couldn't stop it. It happened quite a few times. I feel like it was happening for like 20 minutes, and then I mentioned it to my midwife and I was like, I'm having this urge to push and I can't stop it. And she was like, oh, if you're having the urge to push, just push. And I was like, what? I think by then it was like 1 PM, 1:30 or something. I was having this urge to push, and that's when So I was scared at this point because I was like, I'm so exhausted. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I physically don't know how I'm going to be able to push. But you do just get this inner strength. Like your body just knows what it's doing. And yeah. So then I started pushing, and at this point I was really tired, and I reckon baby was probably really tired because I noticed that a lot more nurses and doctors were in the room, and I was getting introduced to people, and I was like, who are you? I don't know who you are, but okay. So there was loads of nurses and doctors in the room, and I didn't know it at this point, but baby's heart rate was starting to drop, and it got to a point where the heart rate was like, the normal heart rate was around 145, and it was dropping down to 50 with every contraction, and it wasn't going back up. I didn't know this, but Jack could see it all, and that was why all the doctors and nurses were in the room, because his heart rate was just dropping and dropping and dropping, and it wasn't going back up. So they knew that baby was under a bit of stress, quite a bit of stress. So then they brought out forceps and the suction. When I saw those forcep thingies, I don't even know what you call them. It was like first of all, I was like, I don't want you to use that. I really don't want you to use that. And they were like, we need to use it because this baby needs to get out. We need to get this baby out. And I was like, but I really, really don't want you to use it. I had this fear of forceps because, like, just the actual instrument, and then the thought of it bruising the baby, and I was scared about that. And they also had like the suction. I think they called it ventouse, the suction. I think because she knew that I didn't want the forceps, the woman who was doing it all, she used the suction. It's like a plunge. So basically what happened was they cut the side of my, down there, put the plunger in, and with the contractions, they were using the contractions to pull the baby out. It was intense, okay? The amount of force that they used to get the baby out was absolutely wild. I could, like, at one point, the plunger, whatever, the suction thing actually came off of baby's head, and she went flying. She kind of stepped back a little bit, and it made this like horrible pop noise, and I was scared. I was like, oh my god, I hope baby's okay. But yeah, the amount of force that they use to get the baby out is wild. And then anyway, by 2 p.m, well, 14 minutes past 2, I'd given birth, and the baby was just put into my arms, and it was quite scary actually because I was in shock. They held the baby up. They told us the gender, because at this point we didn't know the gender. I had a really strong feeling that it was a boy, but obviously we couldn't officially confirm it. So they held the baby up. It was a boy. Put him in my arms. I was scared because he didn't cry. He just opened his eyes. He looked like he was in shock. He looked at me and he made these like cute little like gurgly noises. I knew he was fine and knew nothing had happened to him. Like, he was absolutely fine. But obviously not to hear them cry is quite scary. But yeah, he was absolutely fine. They put him in my arms. He was healthy. He cried, but like he literally cried like hours after. So yeah, that was the actual birth experience. It was wild. It was painful. It's just as painful as people describe it to be, but it's so doable. Like, so doable. If you are about to give birth, prepare yourself for that. If you want pain relief, definitely take it. You don't win any prizes for going natural. Well, you get the inner satisfaction. But honestly, pain relief, take it. Take it if you want it. But yeah, it's just as painful as people describe it to be, but it's so doable. Like, when I was physically giving birth, I was like, I'm never going to do this again. I don't want to ever experience this again. within an hour of giving birth, I was like, I forgot what it, well, kind of forgot what it feels like, and I would do that again. It's very doable. It's very, like, it's doable. Women's bodies are just, I feel like it's given me a whole new level of respect for the female anatomy, body, because it's just such an incredible experience. It was wild. It was scary. It was wild. It's intense. It's painful. If you're scared in any way, just trust in your body. Trust in your body. If anything doesn't go as expected, trust in your healthcare providers, because thankfully we live in a modern society and we're able to get help. So if in any way something doesn't go right, you're in the right hands and people can help you and support you. But honestly, trust in your body. Really. Trust in your body. It can do incredible things. So yeah, that was my birth experience. After I gave birth, we ended up staying in the hospital for an additional 2 days. I really was hoping that we'd just be able to go home, but yeah, we stayed in for 2 days because I had that infection. They thought it was Group B strep. I was on a drip the whole time, and they put me in a ward. I think it did end up being Group B strep. They did find it in my blood. So they made me stay for the extra night. I thought I was only going to have to stay for one night, but they made me stay for the extra night just to keep me on the drip. But baby was absolutely fine. He was absolutely fine. I just really wanted to go home straight away because, you know, hospital food and being in a room with like several other women and their babies can be quite intense. Do you know what? I'm not going to do the Q&A because I feel like this video is quite long already. I might do it within my next vlog. Do like a little get ready with me or something like that, I don't know. But I will go get baby and I will introduce you to my pride and joy. So here he is. My little Lyric. Had loads of questions about his name. I don't want to be in the sun. But yeah, he's just been napping. But he had his eyes open when I went downstairs. He was 8 pounds and 6 ounces, so he was a big boy. And yeah, he was a big boy. Oh, he's crying a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to end the vlog here because this one is very hungry and very tired and a little bit groggy. And I'll catch you all in my next video, which will probably be a vlog. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Look at him. Hello, Lyric. Say hi to the vlog. Bye.